chores and more chores. It hadn't been so bad when they'd first come to live in her pink cottage at the edge of the woods, but as they'd gotten older, Cinders had realized her stepmother was always going to be bossy and boring, and that she and her stepsisters had absolutely nothing in common. When she was inside, Cinders was always covered in glitter and glue or had paint in her hair. When she was outside, she loved to climb trees and chase her dog, Sparks, around the forest. Ellie and Aggie hated to leave the house unless they were absolutely forced to do so. Their idea of a dreamy afternoon was poring over pictures of Prince Joderick before discussing the very latest trends in ribbon tying or taking photos of themselves. More than anything, they hated the idea of any activity that might get them dirty. Cinders couldn't remember the last time she wasn't head to toe in mud by the end of the day. All she wanted was an adventure. All her stepsisters wanted was a new elf phone. Staring at the stack of dirty dishes, she sighed. "I'm going to be stuck here forever," she muttered under her breath, fixing her big green eyes on the bright blue sky above. "I wish these dishes would wash themselves." Cinders reached out for a dirty plate, but before she could even touch it, she felt a jolt shoot through her hands. The plate jumped off its pile, plopped into the sink, and disappeared under the bubbles with a splash. Marjorie, Ellie, and Aggie all looked up at once at the sound. "Nothing to see here," Cinders called to them, smiling like a loon. "Just me, washing the dishes. Same old, same old." Fishing around in the sink, she hunted for the missing piece of china in a panic. If she broke another plate, she'd be scrubbing the toilet for a month. Suddenly, the plate flew up out of the sink and set itself on the kitchen table. Squeaky clean and bone dry. "But I didn't even touch you," Cinders whispered, pulling her hands out of the water. "What is happening?" One by one, all the dirty dishes whizzed themselves into the sink and out again, piling up neatly on the table. Cinders gazed at her fizzing fingertips, holding them up in the sunlight. Were they sparkling? Good morning, and a good day to all." It was her father. Marjorie closed her book and presented him with a heavily powdered cheek for her morning kiss. He patted Ellie and Aggie on the head and bumbled over to the kitchen to wrap Cinders up in a great big bear hug. "And a special good morning to you, my little princess," he said, pushing his spectacles all the way up on his nose. "On dish duty again, are we? Whatever did you do this time?" "Nothing," she replied, sticking her suspiciously sparkly hands deep in the pockets of her apron. "Honest." "She set the kitchen rug on fire, left my riding boots out in the rain, and Agnes caught her feeding her vegetables to the dog," Marjorie corrected. "Did he like the vegetables?" her father asked. "I think he would have preferred sausages," Cinders replied. "Me too," he agreed. Marjorie sighed. Cinders smiled. Well, I have a very busy day ahead of me," her father announced. "If the king wants to throw a ball, he's going to need a ballroom, and most ballrooms, as I understand it, have a roof." "It is traditional," Marjorie agreed. Cinders' father was the royal builder. Every day he left their little pink cottage and traveled through the woods all the way to the palace. At night, he would show Cinders his plans and sketches for towers and turrets, but she was never allowed to accompany her father into town. She dreamed of seeing the palace he had built for King Picklebottom, the place where her mother and father had met. "If you left off the roof, we could dance under the stars." Cinders twirled in a perfect pirouette and immediately crashed into a stack of tea towels. "You won't be dancing under anything," Agnes said. "I hardly think the prince would invite someone like you to the ball." Cinders looked down at her stained, ragged dress, then over at her sisters with their glossy brown hair, painstakingly applied makeup, and gorgeous grown-up gowns, all before 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. "We'll make a lady out of Cinders yet,"